So, you pop down to your local market, maybe you're scrolling through an online store or just thinking about your favorite coffee brand. We all have this everyday idea of what a market is.
Right. A place.
Exactly, just a place where you buy and sell stuff. But what if that picture, that common understanding, barely even scratches the surface of what economists mean by a market?
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're really going to dive deep into this. We'll unpack the concept of markets, going way beyond just, grabbing groceries.
And that's a great starting point because economists look at it a bit differently. An early economist, Cournot, he actually said a market isn't necessarily one specific place.
Okay.
Instead, it's more like the whole region where buyers and sellers are close enough, in contact enough, that the prices for the same thing tend to even out quickly and easily.
So it's more about the connection.
Precisely. It's an arrangement. Or you could call it a network of dealings. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. It's where buyers and sellers connect to exchange goods, services, directly or indirectly.
And for that to actually be a market, what needs to be there?
Good question. There are basically 5 essential elements. You need, buyers and sellers, obviously, people willing to trade.
Right.
You need a product or a service, something being exchanged.
Makes sense.
A price for that product, that's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Then close contact or communication between the buyers and sellers.
So they can actually make the deal.
Exactly. And finally, they need knowledge, information about the market conditions, what's available, what the prices are, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So our mission today, really, is to explore just how varied these arrangements can be, the different forms they take. It's quite fascinating.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Because, economists don't just see one big market, do they? They slice it up.
Oh, absolutely.
And understanding these different classifications, these categories, seems pretty vital for making sense of, the whole economic picture.
It really is.
So where should we start? Maybe the most straightforward way. Based on place.
That's a good place to begin, yeah. Classifying by geography. It's intuitive.
So what are the main types there?
Typically, we talk about 3. First, you've got your local market. Think your local farmer's market. Products are bought and sold right there in the immediate area where they're produced. Perishable goods, things like that.
Okay, local. Makes sense.
Then you scale up to the national market. That's basically all the trade happening within a country's borders, governed by that country's rules, its regulations.
Right, the domestic market.
Exactly. And finally, you have the international market. This is the big one. Trade crossing borders, buyers and sellers interacting globally. A worldwide arena.
Okay, so local, national, international. That seems clear.
Mm.
But you mentioned other ways to classify. What about time? You said that changes things dramatically.
Oh, hugely. Time is a really critical dimension because it affects how much suppliers can actually respond to changes in demand.
How so?
Well, think about the very short period. This might be just a few days, maybe a week or two. In this time frame, supply is essentially fixed.
Fixed. Like they can't make more.
Pretty much. Imagine fresh fish landed at the dock this morning. They can't instantly get more fish if demand suddenly spikes. So in that very short period, the price is almost entirely driven by how much people want it by demand.
Gotcha. Like concert tickets right before the show.
Exactly. Then there's the short period. This is usually less than a year. Here, firms can make some adjustments. They could maybe hire a few more workers, use their existing machines more intensively, order more raw materials.
So they can increase supply a bit.
A bit, yes. They can adjust variable inputs like labor. But their factory size, their core equipment that's fixed, they can't build a new plant in, say, 6 months.
Okay. And then longer.
Then we get to the long period, maybe up to 5 years, generally speaking. Now, everything is potentially variable. Firms can build new factories, invest in major new technology, change their whole scale of operation. All costs can be adjusted.
So much more flexibility.
Much more. And finally, there's the very long period. We're talking more than 5 years. This is where even fundamental things can change. Technology evolves significantly, consumer tastes shift, population changes. It's about secular shifts in the economy.
Wow. Okay, so place and time give us different lenses, but you mentioned competition as being maybe the most critical factor.
Absolutely. For economists, classifying markets based on the level and type of competition is, it's really the heart of it.
And it's not just competitive or not competitive, is it? It's more like a spectrum.
Exactly. And it ranges from a kind of theoretical, perfect ideal all the way to markets with intense, strategic head-to-head rivalry.
So where do we start on that spectrum? The ideal.
Let's start there with perfect competition. Now, the first thing to say is, and this is really important, this is an ideal and imaginary concept.
So it doesn't actually exist in the real world.
Not perfectly, no, but it's incredibly useful as a benchmark. It helps us understand the basic forces of supply and demand and how other real-world markets differ from this theoretical baseline.
Okay, so what does this imaginary perfect market look like?
Well, the economist Joan Robinson put it nicely. She said, perfect competition happens when the demand for any single producer's output is perfectly elastic.
Perfectly elastic. What does that mean in practice?
It means if one seller tries to raise their price even a tiny bit, they lose all their customers instantly.
Wow. Why?
Because of the key features. First, there's a large number of sellers and buyers, so many that no single one can influence the market price. They're all price takers. They just have to accept the going rate.
Okay, loads of buyers and sellers. What else?
Second, and this is crucial, the product is homogeneous. Every unit is identical. Think basic agricultural commodities, like a certain grade of wheat. One farmer's wheat is exactly the same as another's. Size, quality, everything.
So there's no reason to prefer one seller over another except price.
Precisely. They're perfect substitutes. That's why demand is perfectly elastic for the individual seller.
Okay, what are the other conditions?
There's free entry and exit. Firms can easily start up if there's profit to be made, and they can easily leave if they're making losses. No barriers stopping them.
No patents, no huge startup costs.
Exactly. And this leads to a single price across the whole market set by the overall supply and demand. Also, we assume perfect knowledge. Everyone, buyers and sellers, knows all the prices, the quality, where to get the goods.
Complete information.
Yes. And perfect mobility of factors of production, labor, and capital can move easily to where they're needed most. We also assume an absence of transport costs, just to simplify things and ensure that single price holds everywhere.
Right.
And finally, no government intervention. Pure laissez-faire. The market operates without government interference.
That is a very specific set of conditions.
It is highly theoretical,
Huh.
but understanding it helps explain price determination.
How does price get set, then, in this perfect world?
It's all about the interplay of supply and demand. Think of Alfred Marshall's famous analogy. Supply and demand are like the two blades of a pair of scissors. You need both to determine the price. Let's imagine a market for apples. If the price is really low, say 100 per kilo, lots of people want to buy apples, high demand. But farmers aren't keen to supply much at that price. Low supply. Demand exceeds supply.
So there's a shortage.
Right, which pushes the price up. Now, if the price is really high, say 500, farmers are eager to sell lots of apples, high supply. But fewer people want to buy them at that price. Low demand. Supply exceeds demand.
A surplus.
Exactly, which pushes the price down. The equilibrium price is where the two meet. Let's say at 300 per kilo, the amount people want to buy, say 3,000 kilograms, is exactly the amount farmers want to sell, also 3,000 kilograms. Demand equals supply. DD equals SS.
The market clears.
Precisely.
Okay.
Graphically, it's where the downward-sloping demand curve intersects the upward-sloping supply curve. That point gives you the equilibrium price and quantity.
Okay, so that's the frictionless ideal of perfect competition. But you said it's imaginary.
Well-
What happens when we start relaxing those strict conditions?
Now we enter the much more common and often more complex world of imperfect competition. These are markets that have some, but not all, of the features of perfect competition. They represent a much more realistic picture.
Right, the real world.
Exactly. And the first stop here is often monopoly.
Monopoly. Okay, I think most people have a basic idea of this one.
Yeah, the name gives it away. It's from Greek. Mono, meaning single, and poly, meaning seller.
One seller.
One seller, controlling the entire supply of a particular product. And crucially, a product for which there are no close substitutes.
No alternatives.
Effectively, none that are good enough. If you want that specific thing, you have to buy it from the monopolist or you go without. E.H. Chamberlain defined it similarly.
So how does that differ from perfect competition? The features must be pretty much the opposite.
They really are. You have a single seller, obviously.
Yeah.
No direct competition. Lots of buyers, though. No. Close substitutes, this is key. It means the cross-elasticity of demand is zero or even negative. Raising the price doesn't automatically send customers flocking to a rival because there isn't one readily available.
They're stuck?
To an extent, yes. Then there are significant barriers to entry. These could be legal, like patents or licenses or natural, like controlling a unique resource or technological, whatever it is, it stops rivals from entering the market.
So the monopolist is protected.
Yes. They have complete control over market supply because they're the only producer, and this leads to a huge difference. They are a price maker, not a price taker.
They set the price.
They can choose the price or the quantity they want to sell, which then determines the price. They have market power.
And they can even charge different prices to different people.
That's price discrimination. Yes, a monopolist might be able to charge different prices for the exact same product based on time, place, or the type of customer. Think peak versus off-peak train tickets or student discounts.
Ah, okay. Like concessional railway tickets you mentioned for students or seniors.
Precisely. And finally, in a pure monopoly, the single firm is the entire industry. There's no distinction between the firm and the industry.
That sounds like a lot of power. Does it stifle innovation?
It can. That's a common criticism. Without competitive pressure, the incentive to innovate, improve efficiency, or lower prices might be reduced. Why bother if customers have no other choice?
Right. Are there different kinds of monopolies?
Oh, yes, several types. You can have a private monopoly run by an individual or a company, like, say, a big corporation that dominates a niche.
I got Tata Group example.
Potentially, in certain sectors, yes. Then there's public monopoly, owned and run by the government. Often these are for utilities or services deemed essential, sometimes with a welfare goal, like Indian Railways.
Okay.
Legal monopoly comes from things like patents, trademarks, copyrights. The law grants temporary exclusivity. Think of a pharmaceutical company with a patent on a new drug, or the Hummel brand being protected.
Right. Legal protection.
Natural monopoly often arises due to economies of scale or unique resources. Think wheat from Punjab being particularly good due to climate, or a local utility where it's just inefficient to have multiple sets of pipes or wires.
Makes sense.
A simple monopoly just charges everyone the same price. But a discriminating monopoly, as we discussed, charges different prices. Like a doctor might charge different fees based on ability to pay.
Interesting.
And sometimes firms might voluntarily band together to create a monopoly or cartel aiming to restrict competition and boost profits. That's a voluntary monopoly, like OPEC in the oil market historically.
Okay, that covers a lot of ground on monopolies.
Yeah.
You also mentioned something called monopsony, the opposite.
Exactly. Monopsony is the flip side. Instead of one seller, you have one buyer facing many sellers.
One buyer. How does that work?
Think of maybe a large company town where that company is the only significant employer for a specific type of labor, or the government being the sole buyer of certain defense equipment.
Ah, I see. So the buyer has all the power.
They can, yes. They can potentially push prices or wages down because the sellers or workers have few or no other buyers to turn to. It can lead to exploitation of the sellers.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've done perfect competition and the extreme opposite, monopoly. What's in between?
Right, the middle ground. A very common structure is oligopoly, again from Greek, oligo meaning few, and poly meaning sellers.
Few sellers.
A market dominated by just a handful of large firms. These firms might be producing identical products, like, say, steel or cement. Or they might produce differentiated products, like mobile phone service providers, or airlines, or cars.
Okay, so not one, but not loads either, just a few big players. What are the key features here?
Well, obviously, few firms are sellers. Because there are only a few, each one is large enough to have some influence over the market price. They're not price takers.
Right.
This leads to the most defining feature, interdependence. Each firm knows its actions changing price, launching an ad campaign, introducing a new product will likely provoke a reaction from its rivals.
So they have to constantly watch each other, like a chess game.
Very much so. Strategic thinking is crucial. If I cut my price, will they match it? If I advertise more, how will they respond? That kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Advertising and selling costs become really important. It's a major tool for competing, trying to build brand loyalty and capture market share when you can't just rely on price cuts because rivals might match them.
So big ad budgets.
Often, yes. There are usually significant entry barriers, too. Maybe high startup costs, existing patents, control over distribution channels, or government regulations like licenses. It's hard for new companies to break into an established oligopoly.
Keeps the club small.
It tends to.
Yeah.
Also, there's often a lack of uniformity in size. One or two firms might be much larger than the others. And finally, there's a lot of uncertainty. Because firms are interdependent, predicting rivals' behavior is difficult. Will they compete fiercely, price wars, or will they tacitly cooperate to keep prices stable?
Sounds complex and strategic.
It definitely is.
Okay, one more main type you mentioned, blending competition and monopoly.
Yes, and this one is probably the market structure we encounter most often in our daily lives. Monopolistic competition.
Monopolistic. Competition. Sounds like a contradiction.
It does, but it captures the essence. This concept was really developed by Professor E.H. Chamberlain back in 1933. He saw markets that had lots of competition, but where each seller had a sort of mini monopoly over their own specific version of the product.
How does that work?
He defined it as competition among a large number of sellers who are producing close but not perfect substitutes.
Close but not perfect substitutes. Give me an example.
Think restaurants in a city, or hairdressers, or maybe different brands of soap, toothpaste, coffee, clothing.
Ah, okay. So lots of choices, but each one is slightly different.
Exactly. Let's look at the features. There's a fairly large number of sellers, not as many as perfect competition, but way more than an oligopoly. Enough that each firm has only a small market share and acts independently, not worrying too much about rivals' reactions to its own price changes.
So less interdependence than oligopoly.
Much less direct strategic interdependence. There are also a fairly large number of buyers, so no single buyer can influence price.
Okay.
The absolute key feature here is product differentiation. This is what gives each firm its monopolistic element. Firms make their products different, or at least seem different, through branding, packaging, design, quality variations, advertising, location.
So my favorite coffee shop isn't just selling coffee, it's selling its specific coffee, atmosphere, brand.
Precisely. Even if other coffee shops are nearby, they offer a slightly different product or experience. These products are close substitutes. You could go to another coffee shop, but they're not identical. This means the cross-elasticity of demand is high, but not infinite, like in perfect competition.
Okay. Differentiation is key. What else?
Like perfect competition, there's free entry and exit. If profits are good, new firms offering slightly different products can enter relatively easily. If firms are losing money, they can leave.
Sure.
A unique feature is selling costs. Because products are differentiated, firms spend money specifically to persuade customers to buy their version. Advertising, promotions, free samples, fancy packaging, these are all selling costs aimed at creating demand.
Which you wouldn't need if products were identical.
Exactly. No point advertising in perfect competition. And finally, Chamberlain used the term group rather than industry for monopolistic competition. An industry produces a homogeneous product. A group consists of firms producing differentiated products that are all close substitutes, like the group of automobile manufacturers or pharmaceutical companies making similar types of drugs.
Okay, wow. That really paints a picture of most retail markets, doesn't it? Restaurants, clothes shops, supermarkets.
It really does. It's a very common and realistic market structure.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We started by questioning that simple idea of a market is just a place. And we've unpacked how economists see it as an arrangement, classified it by place, by time, and then really dug into the different levels of competition from that theoretical perfection.
Perfect competition, yeah.
It's a soul power of monopoly, the strategic dance of oligopoly, and this everyday blend of monopolistic competition.
That's a good summary.
What's the big takeaway for someone listening? Why does understanding these forms matter?
Well, I think the key insight is that these structures aren't just academic concepts. They directly shape your world. They influence the choices you have, the prices you pay, the quality of goods, even the pace of innovation for the products and services you use every single day.
So knowing this helps you see the forces behind the prices on the shelf.
Exactly. Once you start thinking in these terms, is this a monopoly, an oligopoly? Is there lots of product differentiation? You can begin to understand why some companies seem to have so much power, why prices are what they are, why some industries innovate faster than others. It gives you a framework for critical thinking about the economy around you.
It moves you from just being a consumer to being a more informed observer, maybe even participant?
Absolutely. It empowers you to see the underlying dynamics.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. The next time you're out shopping, buying something online, or even just noticing different businesses, take a second, ask yourself, what kind of market am I actually looking at right now? Is it closer to perfect competition, or is there a monopoly lurking? Is it an oligopoly game, or just monopolistic competition at play? And what does recognizing that tell you about the economic forces shaping that particular interaction? Understanding this doesn't just make you sound smart, it helps you navigate the global economy a little more wisely.